Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time. Visit myphdweightloss.com. Kamala Harris loves to remind us that she grew up in a middle-class home. You heard that? Many times, haven't you? But there could be trouble as new data shows America's middle class is not feeling the love from the Biden-Harris economy. Also, sources close to the White House report an ongoing rift between President Biden and his staff and Kamala Harris and her staff. All appears not to be well within the Biden-Harris paradise. One of President Biden's most critical members of the U.S. House says she was surprised to receive a call from the president to ask what assistance she needs. Florida Representative Anna Luna, a member of the Freedom Caucus, is offering praise for Biden's response to her district in wake of Hurricane Milton. According to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina, a man was arrested for allegedly threatening harm against FEMA employees responding to Hurricane Helene, which led to assistance being delayed for that area momentarily.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
It's the economy, stupid. That may well be the theme of these final weeks of the 2024 presidential race. You've heard me talking about this many times, and things are not looking good. The question is, who will Americans hold responsible? Yesterday, Fox Business reporting that America's middle class is feeling the squeeze like never before. Prime America's latest financial security monitor, their report for the third quarter found that 55% of middle-income households now rate their personal financial situation negatively. This is a 6-point jump from their previous survey. Glenn Williams, who's the CEO of Prime America, said for the first time in a year, a majority of middle-income households are feeling negative about their personal finances. In fact, this latest report represents the highest negative rating we've seen since we began fielding the survey exactly 4 years ago. Middle-income households' view of the economy has deteriorated, too, over the past 3 months. A significant majority, 73%, say that they have a negative view of the nation's economic health. That's up 1 point from the prior reading. The findings also indicate growing uncertainty about the economy, with 34% saying they're unsure about the economy's direction and the future. This is a pretty sharp increase of 15 points from last quarter. The survey polled households making between $30,000 and $130,000 annually. 40% of the respondents cited inflation as their top worry, up 8% from the previous quarter. The Labor Department last week said the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, which is a broad measure of how much everyday goods like gasoline, groceries, rent, other things that we all use every day, rose 0.2% in September from the prior month and was up 2.4% from a year ago. High inflation has created severe financial pressures, like I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. Many households hurting. They're forced to pay more for everyday necessities like food, and rent is digging deeper into their weekly paycheck, and people are going to hold someone responsible. Price hikes are particularly devastating for lower-income Americans because they tend to spend more of their already stretched paycheck on necessities and therefore have less flexibility to save money. Williams said families continue to list inflation as their number one concern, with the stress it brings spilling over into worry about being able to afford everyday essentials like food or groceries and going to the doctor, as well as managing their rising credit card debt. We've seen that credit card debt really surge these past couple of years. Concerns about the credit card debt among middle-income Americans is also on the rise. 44% said that they are more worried about their credit card debt than they were a year ago, which is a 9% jump on that as well. Williams told Fox Business, the results of our survey reflect the accumulating financial stress middle-income families are facing. And this is just the beginning. This is why Americans, I think, are going to pull that lever for Donald Trump when they vote in the coming weeks. By the way, today, people in Georgia can start early voting. Thursday, North Carolina starts early voting. Other states around the country have already started early voting. And people are going to hold, I think, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris responsible for the stress and for the issues that they're experiencing because of the reckless spending and the recklessness that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and you have to put her in there. She can't run from the Biden administration. She's been very clear that she's been there when all the major decisions have been made. So you have to give her credit for where we are today as well. In addition to Americans, middle-class Americans, feeling the pain, I'm afraid that this is just the beginning of it. And Donald Trump being elected on November the 5th is not going to change some of these things. There's still going to be pain to be had in the coming year or so. I mean, you have to look at some of the things that are happening around us. It's not very promising when you have major brand names admitting that things are not good. A couple examples just this week. Wholesale hardware supplier True Value, an icon, a brand that we have known for, I've known it my entire life. True Value is filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy and is aiming to be sold by the end of the year. They have a buyer, one of their rivals, Do It Best. Not that familiar with Do It Best. I am very familiar with True Value. True Value retail stores, which are independently owned and operated, are not part of the bankruptcy. So don't panic there if you shop with the True Value. The True Value brand is a wholesaler that supplies their independently owned and operated stores. There's about 4,500 locations around the country who buy their products. This is an iconic brand. Again, 75 years they've been around. True Value sells hardware, tools, lumber, plumbing, heating supplies, other home improvement goods. Has between $500 million and $1 billion in total liabilities, according to its Chapter 11 filing in Delaware bankruptcy court. Chris Kempka, True Value CEO, said after a thorough evaluation of strategic alternatives, we determined that the sale of our business was the path forward to maximize value and best serve our retail partners and other stakeholders. Do It Best, which is a Fort Wayne, Indiana-based company, has agreed to serve as what is called a stalking horse bidder for True Value's assets, which means that True Value remains open to higher offers. Do It Best agreed to pay $153 million in cash, take on about $45 million in contracts and other obligations, and hire some of the True Value employees. Another iconic brand, nearly 450 7-Eleven stores across America will be closing because they're underperforming. 7-I Holdings, 7-Eleven's Japan-based parent company. I never realized that their parent company was based in Japan. I'm not sure when that happened, but 7-Eleven, you don't get more American than 7-Eleven. And this just shows you the situation that some of these companies are in now because they sold, they sold a portion of their debt years ago. They say that they're closing 444 stores because of a dip in sales, particularly cigarette sales, as well as decreased traffic, and, of course, inflation has cut into their profit. They did not list the stores that will be closed. They have 13,000 stores across U.S. and Canada, according to their report, which means the closures would impact about 3% of the company's portfolio. The convenience store chain has faced 6 consecutive months of traffic declines, including a 7.3% dip in August. 6 months during the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. They highlighted that cigarette sales, once the largest sales category for convenience stores, has fallen 26% since 2019, that a shift in sales to other nicotine products has failed to make such a difference. Now, I hate that they're struggling business-wise, but I hope that the fact that cigarette sales has fallen means that people are looking at their health more, and that the addiction of smoking, the nicotine addiction, is starting to decline. That would be a good thing. Again, I hate to see this affecting 7-Eleven. The company said that it will transform its stores to be centered around food, which is now the highest selling category. I have a good friend who loves the 7-Eleven coffee. I honestly, there's not a 7-Eleven near me, so I don't frequent 7-Elevens very often. Last week, my friend and I were headed out to do a project that he was helping me with, and he wanted to find a 7-Eleven for the coffee. There were a couple other convenience stores that we were driving right by that I suggested that we get our coffee from them, names that you'd recommend if I were to name them. But no, he wanted 7-Eleven coffee. Again, it's just sad when we see some of these companies that we've known all of our lives, True Value, 7-Eleven, who appear to be struggling. All because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has spent our tax money like drunken sailors. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part, PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Over this past weekend, South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn admitted that black men are leaving the Democrat Party to vote for Donald Trump. That's not the only unlikely demographic that seems to be favoring another Trump administration either. 3 young men told NBC correspondent Shaquille Brewster in Georgia this past weekend that they intend to cast their ballots for former President Donald Trump. Trump is currently leading Vice President Kamala Harris in Georgia by just 0.5%, holds a small lead in every other battleground state besides Wisconsin, according to the Real Clear polling averages. The young men told Brewster, this was Sunday, ahead of a Atlanta Falcons football game, that they plan to vote for Trump, while another asserted it seems like youth are definitely becoming increasingly conservative. Here's Shaquille Brewster with MSNBC.
Before kickoff in Atlanta, almost everyone tailgating is a Falcons fan.
I'm with NBC News. We're trying to talk to young voters.
And among young men at this NFL stadium in a battleground state,
Probably I'll vote, but probably for Trump. You want to tell us who you're planning to vote for? Trump?
growing support for former President Trump.
Why Donald Trump?
I enjoyed his policies, and he did treat us pretty well.
For generations, the youth vote has favored Democrats.
You go first.
But this year,
Does it feel like more young people are becoming more conservative or trending in that direction?
Definitely.
it's a gap that's shrinking, with young men driving that shift. Vice President Kamala Harris's lead among men 18 to 29, now within the margin of error.
Why Vice President Harris?
Because I'm not voting for anybody else.
But President Biden won young men by 11 points in 2020 exit polls. For many of them, it's all about one issue.
Well, the obvious issue is going to be the economy.
Issues you care most about? Economy. Economy is the top issue for you? Why?
I'm working and I live alone, so that's a big part for me.
You see more excitement among young men for your message?
Yes. Dante Thompson is the executive director of the Georgia Young Republicans. He and his volunteers are hitting the economy message hard.
Men want to be in control of their own destiny. And those are talking points that we use when we talk to them.
Former President Trump chasing the demographic, making multiple appearances at UFC fights, and doing a round of podcasts with hosts popular among Gen Z men.
Thank you, President.
And while Republicans say they see a lot of long-term opportunity in young voters, Democrats say they're working to make up lost ground.
Very aware of it. The Democratic Party is making efforts to correct it.
Devontae Jennings leads the Young Democrats of Georgia.
You got to be in the trenches talking to people, letting them know what the issues are, where you stand with the issues, and how you're actually going to care for them.
Kamala Harris recently appearing in a popular NBA podcast.
It is so good to be with you.
Thank you for sitting down with us.
Both campaigns drawing up their final plays to win this group that could decide the presidency.
NBC says 3 additional young men told Brewster that the economy is the most important issue to them. One of them saying, "I'm working and I live alone, so that's a big part for me." Single people, not having someone to share the expenses, and having expenses increase like they have, that would be a big factor. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton expressed surprise on seeing this data to the extent that young black men have increasingly been shifting away from the Democrat Party over multiple elections against Trump. Trump is leading Harris by 17% with Hispanic men who are under 45, while the vice president is leading the former president with black men under 45 by 42%, according to the most recent New York Times Siena College poll. But again, that the black support seems to be eroding, seems to be leaving Kamala Harris. Nearly 55% of voters believe Trump would handle the economy better than Harris. Journalist Peter Hamby warned comedian Bill Maher in late August that a shift in support among young men towards Trump could sink Harris's presidential bid. He said, "This is a real issue for Kamala Harris. Like this could be fatal for her campaign. Democrats need to win 60% of the youth vote to win the White House. It doesn't look like that's going to happen." And you can dig a little deeper, too, in the NBC News poll that was released yesterday, as this latest national poll shows Donald Trump and Kamala Harris deadlocked. Now, you may say, well, that's not good news for Donald Trump, but it actually is when you look back at the history of NBC's recent polling. Some of the findings of this new survey, released just 3 weeks before the election day, also shows that Harris's popularity is declining compared to a month ago after she got a pretty big summertime boost after surprisingly getting the nomination. There's also a massive gender gap between support for Harris and Trump. Let's dig a little deeper here. If you look in the spring of this year, April 2024, Donald Trump was leading Joe Biden 46% to 44%. Then in July, after the disastrous debate for Joe Biden in June, end of June, President Trump showed his first lead in a number of months with 45% to 43%. Then enter the chaos from the Democrats as they pushed Joe Biden out, as they decided he can't be our candidate anymore. And they crowned Kamala as their standard bearer. So you fast forward, September. She then is leading 49% to 44%. A 5-point edge with 7% undecided. People have heard her, they've seen her, they've gotten to know her, and they've realized, whoa, we can't do this. We can't do 4 years of this. And we've seen another shift now. Donald Trump making up that 5-point disadvantage to a dead heat now, 48% to 48% with just a sliver of undecideds. And there's a lot of time left over the next 3 weeks. And every time Kamala Harris goes out, and she's going to have to go out because she's panicking now. She senses that the American people want to see her out there and she can't hide any longer. And the more she does that, the more she talks, the more trouble she gets into. In the new poll, this was conducted October the 4th through the 8th. Harris gets support of 48% of registered voters in a head-to-head matchup, while Trump gets an identical 48% as well. Probably the most significant change, according to NBC, one of the major developments in September was that Kamala Harris's popularity starts to decline big time. Before she became the Democrats' presidential candidate, and during that process, her popularity increased a bit. Now that Americans have gotten to know her a little better and they've gotten to see her in action, they're not liking what they're seeing. In this latest survey, Harris's ratings stand at 43% positive, 49% negative, with the erosion coming mainly from independents and young voters. She lost 6 points in her positive ratings. Meanwhile, Trump's 43% positive, 51% negative score in this same poll. That positive rating is Trump's highest in the NBC News poll since he left office. It is growing daily. This is why we're seeing a lot more of Kamala Harris, because she's in a panic and she knows she has to make a last-ditch effort and get out there and let the voters see her, and that's working in our favor. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. A North Carolina man was arrested over the weekend for allegedly threatening harm against FEMA employees who are responding to Hurricane Helene. This according to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office. William Jacob Parson, he's 44 years old, was arrested and charged with going armed to the terror of the public. I'm not quite sure what that means. Going armed to the terror of the public. It's a misdemeanor, by the way. Captain Jamie Keever said in a news release that was issued yesterday, Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, saying Parsons was armed with a handgun and a rifle. CNN first responded on the breaking news.
And we have seen the power that misinformation has had in the wake of Hurricane Helene. But now that false information surrounding FEMA has taken a disturbing turn. If you haven't heard about this, listen up. Aid operations in Rutherford County, North Carolina, were suspended on Saturday after National Guard troops saw armed militia members threatening FEMA workers. In an urgent email to federal agencies obtained by the Washington Post, these militia members, the troops, quote, had come across 2 trucks of armed militias saying they were out hunting FEMA. As a result, FEMA tells CNN they've made safety adjustments in counties where federal workers are receiving threats. While about 100 miles north of Ashe County, the sheriff there posted on Facebook on Sunday that some aid operations were paused out of abundance of caution due to threats occurring in some counties. And while aid has resumed in these areas, these sorts of incidents spurred by misinformation continue to hurt communities already in need.
Here's what we know. The sheriff's office began investigating Saturday after they received a call that a man made the comment about possibly harming FEMA employees working after the disaster of Hurricane Helene in Lake Lure and the Chimney Rock area. Parsons was found later that day after investigators received information about the color and license plate of his vehicle. Parsons was arrested in his car outside of a grocery store that is functioning as a storm relief site, according to Keever. Parsons is now free on a $10,000 secured bond, the sheriff's office says. It was not immediately clear if Parsons had an attorney. CNN was unable to reach Parsons Monday at any of the phone numbers listed in his name. Now, aid to several community areas were impacted because they were temporarily closed in parts of North Carolina over the weekend due to reports of threats against FEMA and their employees. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of what CNN calls misinformation, and it all centers around FEMA and what they're doing. For example, there's been a rumor circulating on social media, for example, that FEMA has just taken people's property, particularly in the Chimney Rock area and that Lake Lure area. Now, local officials have disputed that. Local officials over the weekend released a number of different videos, primarily on YouTube, saying that this is misinformation, that they are not using eminent domain to take people's property. This continues to be spread on social media, though. Some FEMA teams that were helping disaster survivors, they had center set up offering assistance, are now working in a secure disaster recovery center as a result of these threats. They were moved to a different area. A spokesperson said in a statement, "For the safety of our dedicated staff and the disaster survivors we are helping, FEMA has made some operational adjustments. Disaster recovery centers will continue to be open as scheduled. Survivors continue to register for assistance, and we continue to help the people in North Carolina with their recovery. They're just doing it in a different location." Over the weekend, FEMA workers had to halt their work in Rutherford County due to reports National Guard troops saw armed militia threatening the workers. After reviewing messages sent to employees of a FEMA contractor, the threats were first reported by the Washington Post, then other media outlets picked it up. In the announcement of Parsons' arrest, the sheriff said it was determined Parsons acted alone and there were no truckloads of militia going to Lake Lure. So that's another example of just misinformation. And I saw that reported in multiple locations that militia was threatening authorities up there. Rutherford County, of course, just southeast of the Asheville area, is part of that mountain area that just got slammed by flooding, landslides. More than 100 people confirmed dead in that western North Carolina area. Jordan Monaghan is a deputy communications director for the governor's office in North Carolina, said, "We are aware of significant misinformation online and reports of threats to response workers on the ground, and the safety of responders must be taken seriously." The governor's directed the Department of Public Safety to identify with local law enforcement the specific threats and rumors and coordinate with FEMA and other partners to ensure the safety and security as this recovery effort continues. Some FEMA operations were also paused in Ashe County on Sunday. This is near the border of Tennessee, when their sheriff, Phil Howell, said on Facebook that there had been also threats to FEMA workers there. There was an in-person application for aid in at least 2 locations that was halted due to threats occurring in some counties, according to the County Emergency Management Office. Those locations reopened on Monday, we're told. The Sheriff and Emergency Management Office announced that they would continue offering assistance. Now, folks, this is only hurting those people who need help. When things get this far out of hand, and I know tensions are tough up there. People are frustrated. People are angry. People, they're overwhelmed. And it's easy to see. I mean, look, I haven't been there, but just watching the video, seeing the video of the devastation is enough to overwhelm anyone. You're thinking, how do we ever recover from this? And I'm down here comfortable in a home with electricity and water, and everything's back to normal. But I can't imagine what it's like being in an area like western North Carolina, in some cases in mountains where you have roads washed out and you can't even drive down the road. Sheriff Howell had good advice by saying to stay calm and steady during our recovery. He said, just help folks and please don't stir the pot. I think that's good advice. And I think we have to be careful when we see that post on Facebook as to whether or not we share it and potentially further misinformation. The delays to in-person work by FEMA will only slow down aid to people who need it. And it's sad that it's come to this, that people who need the help of these FEMA centers, and they were closed Saturday and Sunday because of some of this, because of some of the threats that were received, whether they were valid or not. In a statement, FEMA said that they will continue to assess threats to its staff in impacted areas. The agency is coordinating with local officials to try to continue to get the services and the help that people need. There were more than 1,200 FEMA staff providing support in North Carolina as of Saturday, again, according to FEMA's statement. More than 250 urban search and rescue personnel remained in the field and had rescued or supported more than 3,200 survivors, again, according to FEMA. CNN reported that misinformation circulating about the federal response to Hurricane Helene and Milton has hampered the response effort to the storms, and not just in western North Carolina, but in Florida, Georgia as well. President Joe Biden requested information last week on the federal government's digital response, including how officials were remediating misinformation, according to the administration. A senior Biden administration official told CNN the contours of this misinformation are unlike anything we have seen before. Fugit said that individual FEMA personnel have received threats in the past, but on a much smaller scale. He said, in the field, it's rare. This is unprecedented. I know we've had individuals, but not an area or a group that's threatening FEMA. So I don't know if he's disputing some of the reports that there have been groups considered militia who have threatened the FEMA employees, or what. One other significant report. It's not every day that a member of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus sits down to meet with the Democrat commander-in-chief. But I guess a national crisis can change how things are looked upon. Representative Anna Luna from Florida told Fox News that she was not expecting a call late last week when her phone screen flashed with an unknown Washington, D.C.-based government number. When she answered, it was President Joe Biden's voice on the line, she said. Luna said, well, I did not expect that, so I talked to him on the phone for about 10 minutes. First thing that he asked me was what did I need for my constituents and how did I fare with the storm. And then we moved forward into talking about the issues that we are having with FEMA. She talked about how she believes that Congress needs to go back to D.C. and to appropriate whatever funds FEMA needs in order not to be interrupted with services if, in fact, they're about to run out of money, as been reported. She said that pair had met for an extensive discussion on a number of disaster aid reforms, including reforming the National Flood Insurance Program. Bottom line here is Representative Luna, who is a frequent critic of Joe Biden, says that the system is working the way it should, that politics should be put aside when it comes to natural disasters, and that the president is assisting her in order that she can assist her constituents back home in Florida. And that's the way it should be. Forget about whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Let's just help people get back to their life. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Last week, Kamala Harris was on the media tour, sitting down with The View, with Howard Stern, 60 Minutes, and it appears her next visit is going to be with Fox News. It was announced that Kamala Harris will sit down with Fox News Channel's chief political anchor, Bret Baier, for an interview in Pennsylvania on Wednesday. It will be Harris's first formal interview ever on Fox News. It will air October 16th on Bear's special report at 6 o'clock. Bear will anchor a special report with the battleground state, or from the battleground state of Pennsylvania that evening. Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, joined Fox News Sunday for the second straight week this past weekend. The vice president's interview with Fox News comes at a time when she has really increased her media appearances. She went for weeks without having any interviews. Last week, she kind of kicked off her tour with some very easy, safe interviews, and she wasn't even able to make it through those. She really made a mess of those. So it's going to be interesting to see. This 60 Minutes interview continues to haunt her. She's been criticized after the network aired two different answers to the same question about Israel. She followed up with a friendly interview with ABC's The View, Stephen Colbert, Howard Stern. And now we'll see. We'll see what Bret Baier, how he treats her, what kind of questions he asks. Baier, of course, co-led Fox News' channel Special Democracy 2024 coverage of the Democrat National Convention and the Republican National Convention back in the summer, in addition to multiple political events which have constantly ranked number one in all of television. She's going to have the largest television audience that she's ever had. And as always, I'll be watching, so you don't have to. We'll have a full report for you Thursday morning for sure. Do you think Bret Baier will really ask her some tough questions? Do you think he'll hold her feet to the fire unlike some of these friendly interviews? I mean, his reputation's on the line here. He has to, doesn't he? Love to get your comments. Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. How do you think Bret Baier is going to treat Kamala Harris? Is he going to wimp out on us and let her get by, or is he really going to hold her accountable? And how's she going to respond? Don't you know that she is going to be spending the next couple of nights, sleepless nights, as she's worried about this interview? Because hopefully, if Bret Baier does his job, this will be a real interview. This will be real questions, and there'll be follow-up questions. There won't be any of this like they did with 60 Minutes, where they edit her answer to make her look good. I hope not. I mean, am I over? Do I have too much confidence in how Fox News will handle this? I hope that Bret Baier will ask her a question. If she doesn't answer, ask her again. If she doesn't answer, ask her again. Make her answer the questions. And when she serves up a word salad, go back and do a follow-up question. See, that's the problem that so many of these people who interview her, they don't ask follow-up questions. She serves them a word salad. She just jumbles and mumbles and doesn't answer the question, and they just move on to the next topic, when we haven't really heard how she really feels about an issue or what she plans to do. An interesting story from the New York Post saying that sources close to the White House say that there's an ongoing rift between President Biden and his staff and Kamala Harris as vice president and her staff, saying that these issues are traced back to the initial weeks following Harris's nomination by the Democrat Party. Now, you got to understand, I'll bet there are a lot of people in the Biden White House right now that aren't happy with Kamala Harris, that she pushed their guy out. Because that's what happened. She pushed Joe Biden out of the party. The squabbles have ranged, according to the report, from whether Biden's main surrogate should continue going on TV or be replaced with new Harris surrogates, to debates over whether Biden is undermining Harris's messaging. Other issues, according to the report, have included complaints from the Harris camp that the White House has not moved quickly enough to add staff to the vice president's office to help her deal with the bigger workload. A White House official told Axios, everyone from the president on down knows how important the election is, and we always anticipated a number of staff would want to transition with the administration to the campaign for their final stretch. However, simultaneously, the White House has been frustrated over the Harris camp's rules around who can be moved to her office and when. Meanwhile, Biden staffers, we're told, have reportedly felt dejected over Biden's exit from the race, and I can understand that. Sources said forcing them to play second fiddle to the vice president, and they don't like it. A Harris ally close to the campaign told Axios they're too much in their feelings. And that's okay. I get that. They've worked for Joe Biden, and they drank the Kool-Aid. They support him. Some of them have been with Joe Biden for years. And suddenly, they see their gig ending in just a few months when they thought they were going to potentially have 4 more years. And you got this airhead from California who's now getting all the attention. Another example of Biden not adequately coordinating his message and schedule seems to be a problem, too. A campaign aide with Harris said that Biden, they referenced an impromptu press conference from the White House to update the American public on the government's hurricane relief efforts. Harris was campaigning in Michigan at the same time. The dueling events served to effectively lessen the number of eyes on Harris. They didn't like that. The Harris campaign felt that Joe Biden should not have held press conferences, that it took away some of the media's attention on the Harris campaign. Now, you may remember that Joe Biden was supposed to be out of the country. Remember, he was going to be traveling abroad. But he felt it was important that he stay back and oversee response efforts to Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene. The Post says that the infighting did not stop there either. Last week, Harris criticized Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for playing political games and not doing what is best for the American people, according to Kamala Harris, after she claimed that the Sunshine State governor had been ignoring her calls. Now, on Friday, Joe Biden was supposed to be overseas again. He undercut Harris's narrative about DeSantis when he praised the Florida governor because of how well they have been working together. He called Ron DeSantis cooperative and acknowledged that he's doing a, quote, great job. So you have Harris, on one hand, critical of Ron DeSantis, her boss, Joe Biden, on the other, talking about what a great job he's doing. So you can see how that's just not suiting Kamala Harris and her campaign staff. Sources inside the White House told Fox News that Harris created a rift with DeSantis was a dumb thing for her to do, adding that Biden's team feels like it has done everything it can to provide Harris with opportunities to demonstrate leadership, but she's fumbled them. And you can see that. I mean, look, Ron DeSantis made Kamala Harris look like an idiot last week when she's parading around critical of him because he won't call her back. And he says, hey, look, she doesn't play a role here. She has nothing to do with this. I'm dealing directly with Joe Biden. That was a slap in the face to Kamala Harris. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe. Follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.